Alright, today we're going to be talking about one of the most important parts of being a sound guy and running tech for your band or your church, and it is setting gain. And so right here I have at the top of your mixer, you either have this meter that shows the input of each channel, or you have a little peak indicator. And either one of these, it's pretty easy to set the gain once you understand. So I'm going to draw basically, this is our channel strip. You have your pan, and you probably have your signs here and your EQ all the way up, and you have a knob right at the top, which is your gain knob. Now, if your board does not have this meter right here, what it's going to have is a little red light right here. Okay, and so this gain knob should always, start all the way down. So start all the way down and start your fader on 0. Okay. So when you plug an instrument or a microphone in, you want to first set the gain. So I run my fader I turn this all the way down, and I run my fader all the way up to 0, or unity gain. This is what we call unity, but it's basically it should be marked on there as 0. You have some pluses that go up, and you have minuses that go down here, but this is unity. So I'm going to show you the optimal place to put a gain, to put an instrument, is in the yellow. This is your optimal right here. As soon as you hit 0 and go into red, you get into what we call clipping. Now, clipping is on a digital board will sound nasty. It'll sound like real fuzzy. On analog boards, clipping is also kind of sounds like distortion. So this is where you get distorted. Okay, and you do not want to be in the red. But you don't want to be way down here in the green either, because that's a low level. You might have to have your fader all the way up. So this is really important that you get your instrument as close to the red without being all the way in red, and get your instrument up here in this range. And one important thing to remember is you want to be up in this area at peak. So if you have a vocalist, this is the most important. When you're setting gain, you want to have them sing the loud parts. If you have a guitar player, you want to ask them to set their loudest setting. When setting a gain, you want to set to the loudest. Okay, set to the loudest volume that they're going to give you. So if you don't do this, what's going to happen is you'll set your gain and you'll think you're fine, and you'll be around here somewhere, and then service will start, the concert will start, and all of a sudden all the instruments will be clipping, because people tend to play louder in performance. So you want them to give it their all during this one crucial step, and this is usually the first step in your sound check. So here's how we're going to do it. First of all, if we have a meter, we're going to run the instrument in here, and then we're going to start at 0 on the main fader, and there'll be no sound. Ask them to play at their loudest and begin to turn the knob up. And when their volume gets in this area right here, then you have a pretty good guess that that's about it. So you might be at halfway up. Okay, once you're halfway up, you ask them to give a loud piece or sing the chorus or something loud, and you make sure that at their loudest, they're only getting around here. If at their loudest, they hit into the red, then you're going to have to notch this gain down. So it's a little bit of back and forth with the gain to make their most of what they're doing in the yellow. If they get kind of soft, it can dip down to the green. If they get kind of loud, it can dip up to the higher yellow. But what you don't want is a weak gain or a clipping gain. Now that's how you use a meter. What if you don't have a meter? Now here's how I do it without a meter. Now generally you're going to have a little peak, and it might even say that peak right here, and it's a little red light, and it's basically it only shows you when you're clipping. So how I set gain on a peak light is you ask the instrumentalist or the vocalist to sing, and you run their gain all the way to peak till the red light comes on, and it'll blink every time it peaks. Every time it gets in red, that little red light's going to peak. So you get them all the way up to peak, and then you drop them down. So let's say they're peaking here, and then you just take them, give them a notch down. And that should be safe. You ask them to sing and make sure that they're not peaking anymore. So you run all the way to peak until that light's coming on, and then you just drop them down. So if your peak is there, drop them down there. Drop them down just a tad. And then you know that you've got a good gain. And this is one of the most important parts of setting a soundboard. Now, while you're setting gain, one thing you may have to do if your main board is on and your amps, I mean your main amps are on, you may have to, if you're getting let's say a vocalist up in here and it sounds pretty good, but it could be blowing your face off in the mains. So you may have to bring this fader down a little bit, and that is okay as well. So while you're setting gains, you may have to pull them down a little bit. And in general, yeah, that's just to control the volume in the room. Then you know you've got plenty of room to go. Now if you get your gain set too high, obviously what you have is really bad clipping. If you get your gain set too low, you don't have enough volume and your fader is going to be way up here. Either one of those scenarios is bad for your sound quality and bad for your mix. So make sure you understand this and test it out and give it a try.